Hi, and welcome back to the Retro podcast. Today got Joe Roguszka, who is our first returning guest.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the first for that, how we doing?
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, I didn't realize I was the first returning guest. That's pretty cool, actually. Yeah, I'm good. Tired, really, really tired. I was up till nearly 6 a.m., like night past doing work on the script.
Oh, blimey now.
So, yeah. Yeah, tired, but excited about this project. Looking forward to getting started. So, yeah.
We're also going to have some other guests like throughout the episode, some like cast and crew of Joe's new upcoming film. And yeah, is there any way you want to introduce your film?
Okay, right. I mean, yeah. So I mean, the film 20th Century Tribe was something that was a sort of a fairly ambitious film that I set out to make in my final year of uni. Set in the 90s rave scene. I just sort of, while I had free access to equipment, I wanted to do something as big and ambitious as possible. So I made this big film set in the 90s rave scene with loads of people in it and stuff. And then after making the film, I decided to adapt the concept into a TV series that I'm writing. So I've written a pilot episode for 20th Century Tribe. The pilot episode is called Euro 96 and it's set on the evening of the England v Germany match at Euro 96. And so this short film is a proof of concept for the pilot episode. The idea being that the short film gives sort of a sample of what the pilot episode could look like. And it's something that we hope to we hope if it does well and gets credentialed on the festival circuit, say for example, that would help us to get in with some agents or producers that could help us eventually get to the point of pitching the TV show to networks.
Okay, so aside from being like set around that time, what else is it about?
Um, well, I mean, so 20th Century Tribe was always like a coming of age story. About young people, sort of like a young main character, sort of coming of age, and sort of finding his place in a community. In the 90s rave scene. With Euro 96, particularly, for this short film in particular, it's about a young guy called Jack who's basically he's got this best friend called Hood, really really strong close friendship. And Jack, he wants to leave Hood to go to uni to pursue his goal to be a computer programmer to study computer science. And the thing is, his best friend Hood's really clingy. He has sort of attachment issues related to the way that his mom left him when he was a kid. That's Hood. So Jack leaving Hood is a big deal, and Hood has these plans. Hood has had these plans for him and Jack. For Jack to take a gap year to work at American Adventure Theme Park together, make a load of money, and save up to go to Ibiza in the summer of '97. So it's a really big deal for the Hood if Jack's going to change his plans and go away to uni. It feels like Hood, it feels like Jack's abandoning him, and also Jack feels guilty about that. But it's essentially about Jack trying to do what's trying to have the courage to do what's best for him for a change. Because in his friendship with Hood, it feels like Hood is usually the one in control. He's usually the one calling the shots, and perhaps not consciously so, but it's subconsciously, unintentionally inconsiderate of Jack and kind of always doing what he wants to do. And so it's about Jack sort of trying to come out from finding the courage to come out from under Hood, come out from out of Hood's shadow, and say to Hood, no, look, this is what I want to do. I'm going to go away to uni to do what's best for me. And you need to accept that, but I'm not going to leave you forever. We're still going to be friends. I'm still going to come back. I'm only going to be in Manchester. It's not that far away. So that it's really that's what the short film's about. And on a wider scale, the TV show 20th Century Tribe essentially it really is about it's a coming of age ensemble, so there's a lot of supporting characters, and with the TV series idea, I like the idea of having centric episodes for each character, so that each character has a bit of focus at some point in the series, but the main character really will be Jack, and sort of Pod to a lesser extent. And it would, the overall narrative for the first season of the 20th Century Tribe would probably be a longer version of what we're doing for the short film. It would be a longer version of Jack trying to get out of Pod's shadow, but going over 6 episodes rather than just one short film.
Okay. So for this short film at Euro 96, you're planning to film it later on this month, aren't you?
Yeah. Just let me check the calendar. I think the first day we're shooting is less than 2 weeks away now. So
that's coming fast, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, right. So the last day of shooting is 2 weeks from today. So, but we've basically got everything in place now, and we've even managed to raise 2K on the crowdfunder, which helps a lot.
Oh yeah, you just surpassed 2K mark, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we've secured the crew recently as well. The core crew. We just had confirmation from a fantastic DOP. Really well spoken of, really skilled guy. Really knows what he's doing. And the sound guy, we've got a decent sound guy as well that's confirmed, which is awesome, because that was one of my biggest anxieties, was what if we have everything in place, but then we have to delay the shoot because we don't have a sound guy, But thankfully we've got that. So really it's just a matter of getting everything that we need ready for the shoot. I mean, I've recently just ordered a collection of historical England shirts off eBay, sort of 66, one from the World Cup 66 where we won, obviously, and then from the 80s and the 90s. So I've ordered those. I need to order a television, the 90s television, which is a prop for the film. But yeah, loads of things. I just need there's certain props I need to. Prop cigarettes, I think, if we're allowed to smoke in the pub, that one's still up in the air. We don't know yet, but that'd be prop cigarettes. But yeah, stuff like that. And then just going over the schedule. We're currently in the process of putting together the production schedule, working out on which day we're going to shoot what scenes. We've broken the scenes into blocks, so we've got a name for different days. One of the days is called Full House, where we've got all the extras, everybody in. One of the days is called Core 4, which is a day where essentially only the 4 core cast members are on. Or well, mostly the 4 anyway. So we've broken the days into blocks. We just need to work out what date each of those days is going to be on, and then I need to sort of communicate with all the extras, people who have paid for a speaking role, because that's one of the rewards on the crowdfunder, and what days they're available, and then also the crew and what days we have what crew, and basically work out who's coming in on what day, So that's quite a big thing to do as well.
So we have a couple more guests with us today. We've got Rafe as Jack, and we have Gwydion as Daz. Hi guys.
Hello. Hi.
Hello. So can you talk about your characters that you're going to play in the film?
Absolutely. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I'm playing Daz, who he's just a weird guy, really. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely loves his drugs and is just obsessed with the fruit machine. I think fruit machine that is his worst enemy and also his soulmate, really. No, I don't think he's asked about football at all. So everyone else is really focused on what's happening, and he's just there.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a conspiracy theorist as well. Like typical.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, he's definitely like, the Earth isn't even flat; it's like square. He's got his own whole new like regime to everything.
Yeah, because it's like, I suppose it's like the early days of being able to get loads of information.
Yeah.
That having to do loads of research, and you hear about all these things. It's like, no, I'm telling you, man, it's flat.
Yeah,
it's square. It's square.
and it's actually just something that he's seen in his mind. He's not read it anywhere. He's like, yeah, and I had like a full conversation about it, man. It's so true. Yeah. And the fruit machines are actually like, it's a government, man. Yeah.
Fruit machines are the government, man.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like the 90s was the sort of like dawn. That wasn't like with the internet, and you got the X-Files as well. So that's nice. That. So, Arif, if you sort of local to the Midlands?
No.
I am. Yeah. I'm based in good old Nottingham.
Okay. So where are you from?
Me, sorry, or
Oh, sorry. Gwydion, where are you from?
Oh, sorry. West Wales, man. Yeah. So born and raised. I sort of have a little bit of connection to Cheshire and Merseyside, but I've never ever been to the Midlands. So just tick one off the list. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I was gonna say you've got quite a Welsh name. I thought
Yeah. It's a Welsh first name and then Irish second name. So it's kind of it's quite hard to go in places where some people can say both names at the same time. I know it's like people tend to get one, don't get the other. So yeah, it's different. It's different West Wales to kind of what I've seen in the Midlands, but you know, people are people.
Sorry, I've got my friend who's set up our musing in the background. Yeah.
That's all right. So do either of you have like memories of the 90s?
No, I was born in 2000, so
Ah.
I am what, like maybe like 30 days too late.
I say I was born in '99, so yeah, no, a bit young for that.
Okay. Or do you not have any like spillover like from your family and they bring you well, there's sort of like that's again that spillover, isn't there? Like
So
VHSs and
yeah,
and the
absolutely.
like.
Yeah. I used to watch Mr. Bean on VHS. We had a VHS machine as a kid, so I had that. I loved that. Yeah, it was great. That's kind of the only thing we had really. My mum was more kind of more into like the 80s stuff than I think the 90s. So 90s kind of evaded me almost completely until my teenage years.
Yes, I mean, I've got a friend who's quite a bit older than I, and basically, he's just in love with the '90s. He's convinced it was the best decade and to be fair, like the economy was great, everything was going pretty well in the '90s, and then like we hit the 2000s, it's all just gone like woo.
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously the massive rave scene had a big cultural effect and a layover way into even now.
Yeah.
And God, what's that film? Is it Human Traffic? Where it's
Human
sort of
traffic. Yeah.
the end of the rave scene, and that was obviously towards the end, where it became more of a scene rather than just a thing people did. Like it started off as like you go to a field and you go because you enjoy the music, and then you get really high. And now it's like you can see a lot of really kind of commercialized raves where it's like just a kind of standard sort of artist playing, and people go just to take drugs, which is sort of human traffic. So it wasn't really about that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was kind of, it seemed like in the 90s, it was, you did it because that's what you wanted to do. It's kind of like a commodity now, isn't it? Like you have all these big festivals that are kind of pitched around it, but I don't think we could ever replicate what people in the 90s went through in terms of rave culture. I just don't think you just get the vibe, the feeling would never be the same. People always look back and go, oh yeah, it was better then. But that sort of thing, I do get the feeling it probably was better then.
Because like I say, it was it's commercialized now, but back then it was more just like a spur of the moment sort of like real people, not companies like springing it up. Is that right? Like the free raves, is that right? Is that what they're called?
Yeah. I think there's actually in Wales, there's one of the last kind of actual sort of rave cultures where it's it's really you have to know people to text someone where the address is, where the field is going to be that you go
That's
to.
it, yeah. It's like back home, like every summer you'll see it in like a local newspaper, and it's like woman complains about locals in a big field, and it's just like a massive muddy field with these massive speakers and people in vans, and they're just there for like days on end. And you only hear about it when people are complaining. Otherwise, you have no idea it's happened. And it can happen like really close to you. Like I remember one of them was literally like 5 miles from mine, and no idea it happened until months later, and people are whinging about it online. So yeah, it's definitely still there.
Okay, so that's sort of like again that spillover of like raves is still here, but just less so.
Yeah.
I think it is heavily, like I say, it's more of a commodity, more of a scene in like, look at me, man, I go raving, I'm so cool.
Yeah.
Like yeah, like just something you enjoy doing.
Because I mean, you got clubs now.
Mm.
Like I say, they play like more commercialized music. You still got people like, you know, take drugs and like they're pinging, they're enjoying themselves and that. But yeah, I mean, that's never something I've really experienced personally. Like Joe, you're older than us. How have you experienced that?
Well, to be honest, I kind of got interested in the rave scene a bit later anyway. So, um, I mean, I've been to a few sort of little sort of raves, I guess, but nothing too epic. I think I just I discovered the '90s rave scene when I was like in my third year of uni. So it was, quite a late point that I really started learning about it, seeing like old videos and just thinking, oh, it looks really amazing. I would love to have been there and been a part of that. And yeah, and I think a lot of like the modern rave scene is like it seems quite sort of shallow and superficial. A lot of people there seem to be like more focused on like looking cool or trying to look cool or like uploading content to their social media to show people how hip they are or whatever, rather than just putting the phone away and enjoying the rave. And that's something that's what I mean. I think it was Rafe a minute ago saying that that it's not something that you can replicate. The '90s rave scene. The only way you could replicate that is literally ban mobile phones, I guess, and then force people to put their mobile phones in a secure lockbox when they enter the rave.
Like a LARPing for the 90s.
Yeah.
Wait, of course, like we didn't have that. Like you were saying, like just about starting to experience the internet from like person to person. Like it was a niche thing. Like, oh, I don't know about this internet. I don't know if it would catch on. Remember seeing these headlines just in retrospect. Like this didn't age well, did it?
No,
In,
it's all, man.
have you seen the film Hackers, which I think that's a 90s film,
I think
and
I have now.
it's hilarious because there's a lot of like tech jargon that they use that's supposed to sound really complicated. And it's like there's one scene where they're talking to like a cop, and it's like, oh, the problem with the terabyte hard drive is it's corrupted, and the guy's like, English, please. It's really jokes. Obviously, that's like part of our vernacular. Like, that's just what we say now. But it's really clear that this was the beginning of that, and it's all this stupid hacking stuff. Like, oh, I'm gonna put the jackrabbit in the back door of the mainframe. It works nothing like this. Yeah.
Sort of makes you think that what's niche now that would become sort of like everywhere in, let's say, 10, 20, 30 odd years.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. It's quite hard to pinpoint, isn't it? I think because everything in the moment you're kind of like, yeah, that's nothing. It's a fad. It's not going to catch on.
Mm.
And then if it's anything that sticks around is kind of unpredictable to stick around. Which in hindsight, you look at the internet, you think, well, I was always gonna catch on. But people were really certain that in the moment it felt like nothing.
Mm.
And well, the other one though is like I think now is starting to see a lot of sci-fi, not tropes, but sci-fi like devices in films, or yeah, just things from sci-fi films kind of become part of our everyday life. Like there's that
Yeah.
oh, what's that film? It's got Stallone, Demolition Man.
Oh yeah.
And they've got like iPads basically FaceTiming, and there's the whole like you can't swear, you can't say anything negative, and it's like it's funny because it's like, oh wow, this is the 80s and it's sort of predicted the future. How crazy.
We're not quite at the three seashell stage yet, though.
No.
Yeah, it's weird that people as well seem really certain that we'd have hover cars now. Like that's something that sort of throughout the last like 50 years of media, it's like, oh yeah, but there will be hover cars. And it's seemingly of all the things that they've got that's tech wise, it's the one thing we haven't got.
Yeah, I guess it's just probably really like inefficient to have a hover
Yeah.
car. But I know what you mean. It's been a weird sticking point for a lot of people, for like a lot of
Yeah.
So yeah, cars will fly, but they will.
Yeah.
What if it runs out of fuel in midair? Would it just go like?
Oh yeah.
Just hope it doesn't, I guess.
Well, say if you're in a hover car and it stalls, you need like really good suspension because it's going to smack the ground full speed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, hill starts in a hover car. That's why they've not caught on.
Yeah. Yeah, so Jack is he's sort of quite a straight edge guy. You know, he's got these influences around him that are heavily influenced by the racing. You got Daz, who's there with his kind of crackpot conspiracy theories and the wanting to beat the fruity, and he's very content with that area of his life. You've got characters like Hood who are kind of really overbearing, but deep down are a good friend. They're a good friend. But I think he's just sort of lacking that like that autonomy, and I think he's wanting to sort of go his own way in life, which is sort of the main rub of the story.
Where can people find you guys?
You go
Find me on Instagram, gjp.kavanagh. That's kind of the only thing I use really.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on them all, but yeah, Instagram or Facebook is the one that I use. Just my name, Rafe Bird. For Instagram, I think it's Rafe Bird Actor. I'm also on the old YouTubes, but that's kind of putting out sort of my own sort of content. So yeah.
All right, now we have Charlotte join us. How are we doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Who are you playing in the film?
I'm playing Katie.
Okay. Can you talk more about her, please?
Yeah, Katie is what is it? Katie, call her Katie Calamari, but it's not. It's Cardarelli. It's meant to have family from Italy, so she gets a bit of the jokes about her. She's quite a protective character, a bit sporty as well. Put you in your place if she needs to. So I like the character. I feel like she suits me.
All right. So with the film like set in the 90s, do you have any like first-hand or second-hand memories of the 90s, like around about that time?
Lots. Spice Girls. Big time for a young girl then with the Spice Girls. You know, we've all got a girl power. Knock a door run. That was your outside games mostly. You know, kids you don't really see them doing it anymore. And you know, to open the door from the first thing in the morning and not come back in until the lights came on the street lights. Which reminds me a lot of Rugrats. Can you remember that cartoon Rugrats? And it was just all these little babies. They were never watched for some reason. They just, wandered off and found themselves an adventure. And I feel like that's what the 90s was really. You just open the door in the morning and you was gone. Play Kirby, play Knock a Door Run, come back absolutely filthy and start the next day.
You didn't really have like, you see a lot of kids. You call them iPad kids. It's like, right, is an iPad or here's the phone. Just there you go. Keep quiet, shut up, and just watch.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't even have a remote growing up. We was the remote, so yeah, staying and watching TV, and you always had 1 to 5, didn't you? So that was it. Who wants to stay inside?
Oh, so something like, I don't know, Sky or something with when that came out. When was that?
Yeah, Diamond Cable. It was Diamond Cable, yeah.
How many channels did that have?
I think it had quite a few, but I think ours might have been a bit dodgy. I don't know, but I can remember it always had these little. You had a little box, and you had what was it? Was it the box? Wasn't it the music channel? And you could even put the code in that with your little box, because it had like little press buttons on it at the front, and you could actually type in the number code so you could request songs. Now that was big time back in the day. I can remember that.
Do you have any memories of the England v Germany game?
Yeah, and that was that everybody, when you could hear if there was a pass or a foul or anything like, you could hear it through the old street. You could hear the build up, people's windows open. They're like the or you know what I mean, or the and then you could hear it from everywhere. And I can remember I had to do a quick shop run with my mum, and my mum is really big on football. She loves her football. And I can remember her just like getting really angry because she's had to go to the shops, and she's there going, I don't want to miss a score, I don't want to miss a score. And you can hear it in people's windows as you're going by, and they're there going, and they can hear going, yeah, and she's going, who scored? Who scored? And yeah, that's all I can remember about it.
Yes, you still have that nowadays. Like you're walking past a pub and you hear, "Hooray!" and then you hear another pub down the road also screaming. You still get that sort of like community
Oh, so that
spirit
were
when it
the
goes to
pubs.
football.
There wasn't any pubs then there where we lived when I was growing up. That was often just people's houses. You know what I mean? It's like people used to be quite. It used to be quite a big thing back in the day. Like if the World Cup was on or the Premier League or anything like that, it was you know, people did like events at the house. Do you know what I mean? Like people they'd have the fridge and the sofa outside, and if anything they could just so they could have everyone around. It was like an event.
Okay. So so anything that else would you say is like iconic of the time of the 90s?
There's just a lot, isn't there? So do you know when you start thinking about it all and you think, wow, like one, that's where my youth's gone. I'm quite glad that I was a kid in the 90s. I feel like we got the perfect bit before we all got to do our stupid stuff before phones and people could record us. You know, even if you had a camera, by the time you got it developed, the red eye and all the blurry pictures, you know. I think if I was born in the year 2000 and grew up in that time, then yeah, it would have worked out a lot worse for me, I think. Too much photo evidence.
Oh, because I was born in 98, so
So you just kind of missed it all then, yeah.
But like computers started
It's
to
great on the
become
90s baby though.
I mean, yeah, but I don't remember any of it.
Oh no.
But just going through and like computers started to become more prevalent in homes, like yeah, the turn of the 21st century. And
sorry, interrupting you.
no, I was just reminiscing, yeah.
Yeah, the terrible evil scream that you would get if someone was on the computer and trying to use the phone at the same time. Now that was, I think if kids had heard that today, they would think that the world was ending. That was like the siren call, like, you know what I mean? Because it sounded so screechy, like, oh, horrible.
Yeah, that was horrible. That really was horrible.
It really was.
I hate. Yeah, it's hard to explain to someone just how that, like, to go on the internet back then, you had to sit there and listen to horrible sounds while it connected. You know?
Yeah. My children say now, don't they get even my daughter, my youngest last night was having a Mardy about the Wi-Fi, saying, oh, it's because it keeps taking too long when she's pressing a button and we've got that luxury now. You just get to press a button and it just goes on, and do you know what I mean? And well, they wait for like what, split second, 1 second and a half, where we had that constant. Even when it was MSN, it was that little dude just turning around on like 360 constantly, wasn't it? And you just sat there and waited, and you didn't mind.
I don't know how good they have it nowadays.
I know.
Or I'm also trying to think, like, what was like for me, like really growing up in the noughties, trying to think like what was like 90s, because there were like LPs and cassettes. Like were they 90s or were they?
Yeah, we had cassettes. Yeah, I can remember because CD, we had a Walkman, and they were like the big thing. But it's all right if it was in the house. You start walking with that Walkman, and your songs go. You know what I mean? That Walkman wasn't working. It had the name Walkman, but you couldn't walk with it. So you still had your cassettes are like, yeah. And I even can remember showing my children a cassette not long ago, and they didn't have a clue. They really didn't have a clue. And all those danger days that, you know, you had your favorite cassette and it was like, and they pulled the string out of it and you're there being so delicate with a pencil trying to stick in the middle and winding it all up without it folding so that you could use it again.
Well, one of my earliest memories is me as a toddler taking that and like, oh, what's this all stringy thing in a cassette? And then, oh, as soon as one saw that, it was, yeah, I was in trouble.
I think maybe that was
Yeah.
a rite of passage. It's something that I did as
Yeah, I
well.
think that meant you was a 90s kid, to be fair. So I think you can class yourself as a 90s kid.
Hey!
That was every parent's eyes just go, and then they come running at you. Make sure you've not ripped it, and then go, I can fix this. I've got a pencil, and then yeah.
So on LPs making a comeback. Well, they made a comeback for a while, yeah, but they like certain shops like HMV, they have loads of them of new releases. Is that's a nostalgia thing, is it? I want to say.
You like vinyl?
Yeah.
Yeah. We did. We had because I was talking about this the other day. We used to have something called a hi-fi system, and it looked like when you'd go to a pub and see the entertainment guy. And you got all those different boxes of all the different things with the buttons and knobs on, and we had one, and it had a glass case on it, and it was so fancy. Like, and the thing I missed the most is the really decent headphones, because these things are the crap. Do you know what I mean? And you put the and the sound was so great, and I used to like just sneaking in there. I weren't allowed to play with it because it was, that's their vinyl collection. Leave it alone, and you just sneak in and oh yeah, I love that part. But yeah, they are coming back. Yeah.
Is it the something to do with the sound quality?
Yeah, and I don't know. It's just I think it's basically because my family liked a lot of soul music, and it sounded so much better. And I don't know, it's just got more of a authentic kind of sound. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but you feel like you're in the studio with them, if that's like makes sense.
Do you have any memories of like vinyl or LPs, Joe?
I don't. I mean, to be honest, like when I was a kid, I remember cassettes, and I remember I remember my dad having CDs when I was very young, actually. Yeah, cassettes and CDs. Nobody really had any records in my family, so I saw them in movies, in films. So that's like I got a record player several years ago and started buying records, and the cool sort of novelty about it was the fact that it was something I'd seen in films. I've never actually had nobody had them in my family. So.
Okay, so it's like a second-hand nostalgia.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I like them for the nostalgia. My mum, every time my mum used to, because we used to have a kitchen with a dining room connected to it, and whenever you'd sit there eating your dinner and stuff, and she'd put one on and start like Barbra Streisand. She loved that one, playing Black Widow and all those. Yeah, she loved it. So we got to hear all those kind of old listening to music styles, and it was really good. So I'm quite fortunate we had that, to be fair.
So what other, like for the film, what other nostalgia things are you drawing from, Joe?
I think, well, I mean, obviously the really big thing for me is 90s football. Euro 96 is the first international tournament that I remember watching. But I managed to work out by looking up who scored in the match. It was Alan Shearer and Paul Gascoigne, and this is a different match. This is the England-Scotland match. The England-Scotland match in the Euro 96 group in the group stage. That was the first. That's the oldest international match I remember watching, and I worked it out by looking up who scored in it. And I remember watching a 2-0 victory for England where Shearer and Gascoigne scored when I was a kid. So I worked out that it must have been England-Scotland. So that's the main one. And then, Gladiators, the TV show, that's a huge one for me. That was something I used to love watching when I was a kid, which is really cool now because a lot of the gladiators are very approachable on social media now. So I've spoken to some of the gladiators I used to watch on TV as a kid. I've spoken to them online and stuff, which is really cool. What else? I don't know. American Adventure Theme Park. That's a niche local one. That's for the Midlands people. A lot of people probably don't know what that is. But I mean, at the time, it was a huge theme park. It was one of the biggest, most popular in the country. It had at its peak, it had the highest log flume drop in the country. So, it held the title of the highest log flume drop in the country for quite a while. It was a proper serious, really big major theme park at the time, but then it was poorly managed and unfortunately died. But yeah, that's a big one for local people in particular.
When did it shut?
Ooh, well before 2000, wasn't it?
Oh, when did it shut? No. It was 2008 or 9.
Really?
Yeah, so it kept going for a while, but it was actually only 20 years old. I think it was 89 to 2009 or something. It was only there for 20 years. But yeah, it's a shame because it was a powerhouse in its prime, in the 90s, and it just became poorly managed in the 21st century. I think they tried to make it family friendly, and so a load of the rides were sort of like kiddified, sort of like diluted, and I think that took away from the thrill of it. I think that was a big part.
The thrill of it, exciting, yeah.
Yeah, but I can't really remember the specifics. I remember I looked into it a while back. There are some sort of hardcore American adventure fans that know a lot more about it than I do. There's somebody working on a documentary about it, somebody local actually, that I sort of read about last year. So.
It was on the radio this morning, talking about it. But I took my children camping not long ago, and I can remember telling them about the styles of children's play areas and climbing frames and stuff when we was the kids, and saying it's just playing bars and painted and all that stuff, wasn't it? So we used to have slides that was made up into the style of a tree, and you climb in it, and then you'd have a slide on the end, it'd have a creepy face on it and stuff like that, or a boot that looked like it was eating you as you was going. And there's a campsite just up Reading, I think, and it's called Golden Valley, and I took my children up there, and they've actually got American Adventure's old stuff.
No way.
They've got the old climbing frames, the old thing, and I even said that to him. I mentioned it to him when I was there, and I was like, yeah, so these look really familiar. And he says, yeah, so we bought it from American Adventure when they was auctioning all this stuff off, and I was like, no way. So this is actually stuff that I'd actually played on as a kid.
Yeah.
And now my children are playing on it.
Really
that's
cool.
great. That.
Where is it? Reading?
Yeah. No, not Reading. No, not Reading. I'm getting it mixed up. It's in Derby kind of way. But anyway, it's a campsite. But even the logs that they had for the log flume, they've made down, and they put wheels on the bottom, and they have a guy with a tractor go around, and so the kids are still getting to use the log thing, but not for a flume. Just they use it as a log ride. So I thought that was really cool. So I thought, yeah, even though American Adventure isn't here anymore, my kids have still got to experience some of the things that American Adventure had.
Yeah, the log flume is something I remember going on. I remember going on it because I thought, look, I'm scared of scary rides. I liked American Adventure because it was like Western themed. It was like a Western, and
cowboy style. Yeah, that's what I like.
I'm not into crazy rides, but I went on the log flume because I was like, okay, well, it's only a log flume. It's a water ride and stuff, and then like I totally freaked out when I saw the size of the drop. But then afterwards, it was all right. It wasn't really that bad. It was fun actually, but yeah. Yeah, so obviously I didn't know at the time that I decided to go on it that it was the tallest log flume drop in the country. I didn't know that then. So.
Is there sort of like a modern day equivalent to American Adventure?
I think some people. I don't know much about theme parks, to be honest. I'll admit.
Drayton Manor's a bit, but
Drayton Manor.
Yeah, it did remind me a bit when I was there. It's got that kind of like vibe to it, but I don't think any fairground ride now, fair adventure place has really got that same magic vibe. Do you know what I mean? Everyone wants things a bit too scary now, or a bit too. That I like the kind of gimmick behind it, and I don't know. It just had this weird magic that the new places haven't really got anymore.
I don't know if there's any theme parks that have a little cowboy town like American Adventure did. Not in the UK, I'm saying. But some people. I have seen some people sort of saying that American Adventure was sort of like a pioneer in theme parks becoming really themed, really heavy on the theme aspect. Because obviously American Adventure was really, really sort of heavy Western themed. That's something I loved about going there as a kid. It felt like I was in a Western, for certain areas. But I think there are theme parks nowadays that, there are theme parks nowadays in the UK that have that are really sort of themed about it, like sort of like gothic horror theme or like a World War II. I think I saw a theme park that's got like a World War II themed area, stuff like that. So I think those kind of things do exist. So I'm sure there probably are theme parks in the country now that have sort of Western themed areas. But yeah, I don't know.
Greater Man has got a Viking theme.
Yeah.
Okay. So just wrap the section to a close. Where can people find you, Charlotte?
Find me
Online, not in
on
not in real
find me on Facebook or Instagram. And as far as my work, look for Joe. He's got some of my stuff. There was a few things of comedy shorts I've got on YouTube as well, but hoping to build up.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate that. We also have Allan Rafferty joining us. How we doing?
I'm not too bad, thank you. Are you okay?
Perfect, thank you. So what's your relation to the project?
So I am, in fact, the director of the short film. Joe brought me in a couple of months ago to look at 20th Century Tribe, and he said he was going to do a trailer, and I said, I think it would be really good if you did a short film and tell like one short story to show how you can do it and how you would sort of create things. And he brought me in to help him kind of figure that out. Sorry, I've got a frog in my throat.
Right.
Yeah, he kind of brought me in to figure that out, and then I rang him up and I said, "Is it okay if I direct? Because it's going to be quite an exciting project." And he said yes, and we've been sort of batting the idea around as to how we can bring a short film together that's based during Euro '96 together, and we've found something we're very happy with.
So is that a time that you like have any first-hand or second-hand nostalgia on?
So, funnily enough, I was only 3 years old, so I don't remember much about Euro '96 itself. That was massively like Joe's input. He was very keen for the story of 20th Century Tribe to start with episode 1 being set during Euro '96, and he's educated me, told me everything I need to know, given me all the breakdowns. I've watched lots of footage about it. But the one thing I do have memories of is I do have memories of my granddad getting really, really excited at any time England would be playing, whether that be in the Euros or the World Cup. And so I can kind of remember what it was like being a fan based on that, because I remember getting excited because he was excited, and we used to go out and get all the England merch and sit and watch the game together. So I do understand that level of nostalgia.
Okay. So 90s as a whole, do you have much in the way of memories about that?
A lot of my memories of the 90s, because I was very young. I was 7 when 2000 hit. So a lot of my memories of the 90s are like playing Pokemon and playing Crash Bandicoot. And actually, a lot of stuff that happened after Euro '96 is a lot of the stuff that I do actually remember. But no, I'm a massive Crash Bandicoot stan. Love that guy. And I also, I just remember all the video games and that type of thing. I got a PlayStation when it came out as well. That was quite fun. And Nintendo 64, big on the GoldenEye. So yeah, mainly video games is what I remember from the 90s and being very young, and the millennium being a huge thing that everyone spoke about a lot.
Not with the Y2K bug.
Yeah.
What was that all about? Because I remember Joe as well. You were talking about it with the Y2K bug. Like, why was that a big thing?
I don't know. Is this the theory that the world is going to end or something in 2000? It was something like that.
Well, it was supposed. I mean, I was a kid, so I didn't really understand it. I thought it was like a tummy bug, but then I didn't really get how apparently this tummy bug was going to affect in computers, because Because I'm a kid and my knowledge of bugs are that they're either living animals that you can see falling on the floor or walking on the floor, whatever, or they're a tummy bug, right? But now apparently there's another kind of bug that can infect computers, and apparently that's what it was. So I was confused. Like, well, there's a tummy bug that's going to infect computers and make all the computers melt down or not work properly. And of course, as a kid, I didn't really understand the ramifications of that. But yeah, people were frightened. Essentially, all the infrastructure that in the world that relied on computers was gonna stop working.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of like conspiracy theories to do with that because people just love the end of the world, don't they? They love it. 2012 was meant to be the end of the world, and I think it wasn't. I think unless this is all just the afterlife, I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
What's the next end of the world date that people are putting forward now?
They were all expecting it to end in 2012. They hadn't planned ahead, clearly.
I think there was supposed to be one this year, but it might have been this month or something.
I mean, we've got like a couple of weeks left, so.
But, a lot of these are based on so-called prophecies or whatever. People have made prophecies, but it's like Nostradamus. He's not. It's just a thing where people attribute what he said to things that happened after they happened. So the people decide that Nostradamus was predicting the future because they realized that some of the really abstract, vague things he said actually apply to things that have happened in the real world. It's like anyone can predict the future if they say something really vague, like there's going to be bad times in this year. There's bad times every year. So yeah, I don't know.
What you need to watch out for is the Simpsons episodes because obviously they're quite big on the predictions, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, it's been around for a while. You're bound to get a few things right.
Well, yeah, it's true. It's true. To be fair, I do remember watching The Simpsons in the 90s. That's another thing that I remember watching.
When did it start? 1989?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Wow.
It's definitely been very prevalent all the way through my life. So, yeah. Something like that.
I don't think it came to the UK television until a few years later, though. I'm not sure. But I don't know. I feel like it might have come to the UK TV a bit later than 89. But...
Now I've got it all on Disney Plus, so that's good.
Oh, do they do something where the older episodes are in 4:3, but they zoom in to make them 16:9?
I think they do, or do they?
The streaming
now
service
you're making me want to go on Disney Plus.
Yeah, streaming services do that with some TV shows, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I have them on DVD, so that was a TV show I was really into when I was younger. So I've got all those on DVD. But I've seen people online sort of complaining about how Buffy on certain streaming services will cut out a character, or a character will be half on the screen because they've just like zoomed in to make it fit the ratio or the aspect ratio or something. And it's just stupid. I don't know. Really, I feel like it can't be so difficult just to show the TV show in the way it was originally presented. I don't know why they have to like try and get it to try and force it to conform to the contemporary aspect ratio when it's not made for that aspect ratio. So
I paid for the whole screen. I'm going to use the whole screen. Yeah, that sort of thing.
Unless you Zack Snyder, in which case you make it a different aspect ratio on purpose.
But yeah, 4:3. That was the thing back then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, anything you want to talk about the project?
Yeah, it's been a really fun experience so far working with Joe on this. We've been the sort of first challenge that we had, because when I said, Joe, shall we do a short film, the first challenge we had was trying to figure out what we were going to do with the film. And our initial idea was a little bit ambitious because we were like, do we do like a one shot of the entire pub, like there's a story going on throughout the whole game? But then we realized that the game was a bit long, and that's a lot of effort there that I don't know if we were ready to be able to do. So instead we decided to try and figure out how the short film would work and how would what story can we tell in the space of time that the game was going, and that sort of led to us going on a bit of a journey, and we've landed on one that I think we both relate to some extent, which is all about coming of age, and it's all about making decisions of change, and kind of like the camaraderie of the game uniting the community acts almost against the protagonist as well, because he is almost trying to he wants to move on and go to university basically, but he's very much being brought back by his best friend Hood. But also that around them, they've got people that he knows. You know, he knows the whole community. Everyone in the pub gets on. They're all bantering. They're all having a laugh. So we were just trying to find the story that worked and how the Euro 96 could actually complement the story rather than it being just a recreation of us just being in the pub. What story can we tell? Because at the minute, the plans are to open the story as we walk into the pub. The game goes on, the story goes on, and then when the story comes to an end, same with the game, we come out of the pub. So it's very much quite reciprocal like that.
Okay. So you say the film sort of revolves almost like around them watching the game of the Euro 96, the England v Germany game. Is there anything that you could tell us about the game itself?
There's a few things. There's a few big sort of moments that Joe wanted. I mean, a big thing that Joe's very keen for us to get in there is when Shearer scores at the 3-minute point. Very important for us to make sure that we can sort of show the level of celebration, the camaraderie. You really want to get that 3 lines in there, don't you, Joe? Get a load of people singing that, and that's kind of, you really want to get that feeling and that atmosphere. I think, yeah, that's going to be brilliant. And I think what's really lovely and what drew me to this story and well, just working with Joe in general, is that he writes very visceral, real characters with very visceral, real dialogue. But Joe's also very inspired by Shane Meadows and the methodology of kind of like dropping the script and allowing a bit of improv to take over. And that was something that I'd never really considered doing before. So I was hugely tempted to see whether we can take on the challenge of pretty much improvising a film while also, bringing together this kind of moment. I know I've completely derailed your question there.
That's all good.
But no, in all honesty, yeah, the points of, there are some really key points within the game that we focused on. Joe, I don't know if you want to explain that, or do you want me to tell them what points?
I was just going to say, like, I mean, I've familiarized myself with the match quite in depth, really, because I was writing the pilot episode for the TV series 20th Century Crime, the pilot episode Euro 96. I was writing that. I've been writing that for over a year, really, working on that. And so yeah, I mean, I've studied in depth like the highlights of the match. 2 minutes into the match, Paulins has a fantastic volley shot on goal, gets saved, goes out for a corner. Gazza takes the corner. Shearer scores off the corner 3 minutes into the match. I think it's 11 minutes or around then, approximately 10 minutes after Shearer scores, Stefan Kuntz equalises. Kind of giving spoilers here, but I mean, spoilers, it's like, you either know what happened or you didn't. And I guess anyone who doesn't know what happened, they could always just put their ears and eyes off to it until they watch the film. But yeah, and then another sort of highlight is there was a infamous near miss that Paul Gascoigne had in extra time where his boot was like this close to putting the ball into the goal, which would have put England into the final. A little bit of butterfly effects there. If he had just been an inch closer, we would have been in the final. And then there's the infamous Southgate incident, I suppose. And they're the particular, really, like, they're the main spots to hit for me, in the match. Obviously the goals, what led up to the goals, the goals themselves, and then the Gazza near miss and the penalty, the way that ended, penalty shootout. So there's those highlights are things that I think it's important to include in the film in some way, even if it's people characters referring to them or reacting to them as they happen. And the song, you can't make a film you can't make a film that's set in Euro 96 where Euro 96 is a huge part of it without having the free light in the song. It was such a, what do you call it? Such a I can't think of the word, but it is prominent, such a prominent element of the time, really. It was one of the first songs I ever really learned to sing, possibly the first one, to be honest. It's quite easy to sing, you know. It's quite an easy sing-along, really, with the chorus and even the verses in that. You know, I remember everyone singing it when I was a kid. So it was very present, that song. You can't make the film without the song in it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we are using very much the game as a framework to help us move the story along and know where we're going within the story as well. So that was what the challenge was, really, was trying to make sure that we stayed true to what the experience was of being in the pub while also telling a story. And I'm really proud of what we've done and what we've set up, to be honest. I think it does a really nice job, if I say so myself. But yeah.
So do you setting this film in the 90s, what challenges do you have production wise? Guessing you have a lot of costumes. You've got a lot of
I mean,
set dressing, I guess. Make sure you don't have any like phones in shot. Anyone in the background, I guess.
There's an old Derby shirt on the wall as well that we've got a new Derby shirt, should I say, on the wall that we've got to take off, that's framed, that's on the wall of the honeycomb at the minute. But no, I think I'll let Joe pretty much take this, because you're gonna, like, you know, but the one thing that I think we're gonna find challenging, and I think you're gonna try and help us work through this on you, Joe, is because it will be very heavily improvised. It's making sure that our actors don't slip into current slang. And you're going to help us work around that a bit, aren't you, Joe? You're giving us a bit of a vocab thing as to stuff that we can't sort of say that's being said now, and stuff that was likely to be being said back then.
Yeah, that's on my list to do, is to sort of put together a vocabulary list of what people are allowed to say and what people aren't allowed to say, basically. So a vocabulary list that includes certain phrases or words, terminology, pop culture references as well, that, you know, people can talk about, and then things that they can't say, you know. That's quite important, because you know, if we're doing improv, we want to get really sort of naturalistic, sort of real, genuine, or organic sort of performances and moments. But we, at the same time, we don't want it to be so authentic. So we don't want it to be so authentic that the actors say something that they shouldn't be saying at that time, you know. Yeah, so that's a big part of it. And then it's just I guess really the major challenge is making sure that the things that wouldn't have existed in '96 aren't in the background. You know, like, for example, there's an LCD television in the pub, you know, and we've got to do something about that. Obviously, that's something that we're going to make sure is not in the film. So yes, stuff like that, really. And
then there's the up-to-date fruity machine that we can't use because it's so up-to-date that it doesn't work with the year. Yeah, it's a sort of fancy contemporary quiz machine in the book. So that, thankfully, it's next to a partition. So we're actually just going to move the quiz machine on the opposite side of the partition and then move it back. So whichever side of the pub we're shooting on, we'll just move it to the other side of the partition when we're shooting on that side, basically.
What about
and then, of course, sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
And then, of course, there is the element of smoking in the pub, which was totally legal back in the 90s and absolutely is not now. So it's also figuring out how we can do a bit of movie magic to get that happening.
When did that change?
2000s, I think 2001 or 2 or something like that. I'm not actually quoting that. Like, please don't Google it and tell me I'm wrong.
I think it was later than people realize, because I researched it recently, and it surprised me a lot. It was like mid-noughties, 2006 or something like that.
All right, so
really surprised me. Yeah. But I mean, I think it wasn't as commonplace by then. It had been phased out perhaps for quite a while before that. But yeah, no, I would really love to have a really authentic atmosphere with people smoking in the pub, which would be prop cigarettes. But that's something that we've run by the location manager, and obviously the most important thing for us with regards to the location is that we respect the location. So whatever their decision is, that's we'll have to respect that. But I don't know. I don't think it's something we're going to really be able to do in post production. So I think it's either we can do it, we can do it in principal photography, or we can't really. So
You mentioned about like making things contemporary as well, but what about money? Because nowadays, like notes are plastic, or like the pound notes. Sorry, the pound coins. They're different. I don't know if you're like having money in the film, but just thinking about that, that's little things like that. I'm guessing small little details. to think
yeah,
about.
I mean, yeah, I've been very aware of that. I think we're probably just going to shoot it so that you can not see the money, or that you can barely see it, and probably only use coins as well. And so coins you can sort of get away with without showing them too much. I mean, we could always ask around if there is anyone that has a collection of old money, but it's probably not as easy to. It's probably like it's hard enough to find a 1990s television. It's probably harder to find older money, actually, to be honest, because it's not really something people collect unless it's like antique money, which we're just looking for retro money. So it's not really. I don't think it's that sort of cool yet. But yeah, I do remember the 5 pence coins used to be about the size of 10 pence coins. Now they were huge. Like when I was a kid, 5 pence coins were big. And now they're obviously really small. That's an interesting one. It's something that I remember the change happening when I was really young, and I was only really reminded of it when I think I don't know. I think I found an old 5 pence coin somewhere at my house a few years ago, and it reminded me. No, I think I found it at my dad's house, and it reminded me. Oh wow, yeah, 5 pence coins used to be huge as well.
Mm-mm. So with a lot of this nostalgia, which is I guess part of the reason why you're making this as well, like you're finding a lot of things making a comeback. Like we spoke earlier about like vinyl making a comeback, but some like VHS to a point is also making a comeback. A lot of like horror films have a limited VHS run because of that sort of like that nostalgia of taking like your horror film VHS, and it just sort of it degrades the quality, but it's in a way that sort of enhances it. Like you can't just like you don't have that crisp detail in the shadows. It's just falling into black, and there's always this suspense. Like, is there something hiding in the shadows? And like for a lot of people, that's sort of something that they have nostalgia for. Is that something that either of you two share?
For VHS, for me, definitely. Yeah, I didn't know that. So VHS are being there are modern releases of horror films on VHS.
Yeah, but like very limited, it's like a collector's edition,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
I do miss a good VHS. I liked how you had at the every time you got to the end, you had to rewind it and watch the whole film backwards. That was fun. But no, I've still got a load of VHSs knocking about. Really, it's just a shame that there's, and well, I guess you can go on eBay and find one, but I haven't got a VHS player myself.
I
You
do
don't.
but that's one that I actually bought for 20th Century Tribe. I bought it as a prop. And I bought a TV too, but the TV was huge and I didn't have anywhere to keep it, so I sold it again afterwards. And now I need to find another 90s TV for this film, which I looked online recently and I can get one really easily, so it's not too much of a problem. But there's quite a lot of them. But yeah, VHS. I it's definitely very nostalgic for me. It's a weird thing to complain about, but I actually feel like things are a bit too easy these days, which is nice to be able to watch whatever you want whenever you want. But at the same time, I don't know. There's some. It may maybe it makes people more impatient than they ought to be. Perhaps the things are so easy these days. Where there's something to appreciate about VHS having to sit down next to the VHS player, take the time to rewind to the point you want to rewind it at. It's a process. There's sort of like a ritualistic process to it, I suppose. And it was something I did a lot as a kid. I think for me, VHS just looks cool to me because it's nostalgic, really. It's kind of really a style over substance thing. I just
You put heads a lot on that, don't we, Joe?
What's that?
The style over substance.
Yeah.
Many in our creative team, Joe is the style, I am the substance, and we have to find that middle ground. I think works really well because we'll get a bit of both, won't we?
Yeah, that's something that works really well for me about this partnership. Is that it helps me to have some balance so that there's a bit more substance in my work.
Yeah, no, it helps me have a bit more style. So it's been a good partnership in that way because we kind of complement each other in that way. But no, in terms of saying people have it too easy, have you ever sat on Netflix and spent more time looking to figure out what to watch than actually watching anything because you've got so much you can do? Like, whereas back in the day, off the Blockbuster, just grab yourself a VHS. You've got one VHS. You've got no other choice. You've got to watch that VHS. You may as well. So you're probably more likely to watch it than if you've got Netflix.
Yeah, I think people are spoiled for choice a bit. I mean, I'm guilty of it. Taking ages to watch.
Oh, we all are.
But I mean, something else that we've sort of lost is just organically discovering a movie on one of the 4 or 5 channels. You just organically discover a movie. I mean, that my favorite film, Boogie Nights, I discovered it like in the mid-noughties. I was too young to be watching it at that time or whatever. But it was late at night, and Dead Man's Shoes, another film that I love, Shane Meadows' film. But same thing. I had no idea what it was. I just found it on TV, and then both of them became favorite films of mine. And that's not really something that happens anymore either. Really, like organically discovering films. Or I mean, if you do, it's like you go around to a friend's house and they show you something that they know about that you know nothing about, and that's sort of a similar thing, I suppose. But
I don't know
Yeah,
about
it's
you
quite
guys.
rare. Sorry.
No, that's all right. Sort of like the discovery of new things. It's sort of I don't know, sort of changed a bit now. Like as much as I sort of see the downsides, I'm the kind of person to scroll through like either TikToks or YouTube Shorts. It is a chronic addiction, I know. But it's
We
a
all
good
have
way. It is a good way to discover stuff. Like you have that short. Okay, yeah, you have to get your gratification instantly, but at the same time, it's a good way to discover things. Like you scroll like and watch something for an average of like 10 seconds, and you make it your mind whether you like it or not. And I'll tell you what, there's so many times where I see something, it's like, oh, this actually looks pretty good, and then watching it, and I like it, and I think that's a good way that like I think Zoomers nowadays are being exposed to more classic cinema, I guess you could say, through that. It's like, oh, this film, this short excerpt looks really interesting. I want to go watch the whole thing. And I don't know. I think that's probably like a plus for modern day stuff. Like I know we're sort of like, yeah, there's positives to how it was before, but I think there's also positives to nowadays as well. I think the sort of like the media economy has changed.
Yeah, things just keep evolving. Although I do like it when they bring old stuff back because Netflix bought in, like releasing an entire series on a day, that kind of thing, so you can binge for binge culture. But I actually really like the way that Disney's done it, where Disney's gone back to like, okay, you get 1 episode a week, or 2 episodes in the first week, and then 1 episode the following week, or whatever they choose to do. I think that's kind of, I like being. It expands the amount of time you spend on watching something. Like I want to spend that week Like I'm a big Doctor Who fan, and I quite enjoyed it when Doctor Who ended on a cliffhanger, and we spent the whole week talking about how the Doctor's going to get out of this. I miss that type of thing. You can't really. There's not much of that anymore, and I think I really do like coming back or going away from the story and discussing what has gone on. You get it quite a lot with soaps and stuff, but like you don't generally get it a lot nowadays. I mean, even for example, Waterloo Road, the whole series gets released on BBC iPlayer, or you can choose to watch it once every week. So even then, they've like BBC have kind of got around it that way. But I do enjoy. I think a big part of watching television and watching these stories come out is being able to discuss it at intervals and being able to go, oh, that was really good. Oh, I didn't like that. Or I wonder if this character's going to do this, or just, speculating. It's a huge part of it. And I think we lose it from binge culture a little bit.
Yeah. No, I would agree there. Yeah.
I think it's another way to make people less patient as well. Everything's instant action. People get what they want as soon as they want it, And I know,
sometimes,
the like watching Game of Thrones, the pain of waiting to find out if Ron was still alive after a certain episode or whatever. I love that guy, It's horrible waiting that week, but at the same time, I mean, it's like, well, that's life. Sometimes you have to wait and
you get it.
Find out straight away. So
Game of Thrones in particular was horrendous to watch on broadcast because you knew that anybody could die at any minute, and you were like, "Oh God, please, not this time, not Tyrion, not this time, please." every week. But yeah, no, I think I do like that kind of vibe of just, feeding a bit of a story every week, even though we're working on a short story. But that's not the point. This is meant to be a TV series one day, so yeah.
Bro. So are we right to round this off, or is there anything else you wanna add into this?
I can't think of anything else that we need to cover really. So.
Okay. What about yourself, Alan?
Yeah, I think that's everything.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Alan, for your time. Appreciate
Thanks
that.
for having me.
That's all right. And thank you, Joe. It's been a pleasure once again. And yeah, so the links to see these guys will be down below. Alan, where can people find you?
I'm on X. Never said that before, but I'm on X. What do you call tweeting these days? Do you call it Xing? I've just X'd an X on X. What? Anyone know? Like what's the new thing?
It must be a placeholder name. There's no way he's going to stick with that. I mean, even when you say I'm on X, it sounds like you're saying you're on ecstasy. So
I'm not on ecstasy, but I am on the social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm on Instagram as well. I'm not very active on any of these things, but I am on those things. They're probably the two best places to get me.
Okay. And for you, Joe, where can people see what you're up to?
On Facebook, Joe Roguszka. Also, Euro 96 short film on Facebook for the short film page. On Instagram, J Retro Media, that's for the Euro 96 short film, and JR Soul Vision is my personal Instagram. Posting those content to do with the film on both of those anyway, though. So yeah, Instagram and Facebook primarily for me.
Okay, well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. That has been this episode of the Retro Podcast. Hope you enjoy, and I'll see you later.